Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honor to the Sublime One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Welcome to this Dhamma Talk and discussion. Amelia, I'm not sure if you ever have been to one of my events. I'm not sure if I remember your name or not. Okay. I'm really bad with names. So I have to see you a bunch of times. Oh, yes, that's right. Okay. Okay, so then everybody, I don't need to do an introduction. So, as you all know, what we do here every Tuesday is have a Dhamma talk and discussion. And normally, I come up with a topic during my my morning meditation, my walking meditation, but I don't have anything this week. So I could go back to the same old boring stuff, or I could make this a question and answer, as in, does anybody have any questions about anything related to Buddhism or Dhamma or anything? Now, as I've always said, I can never guarantee an answer, but I can at least attempt to put you in the right direction to help you find out that question. Evil, you always have questions. You're great. Oh, you have the same question that needs to be answered more? Is that what it is? Thoughts from the Theravada perspective, as in just like Buddhism in general, or why I picked Theravada, or I'd rather answer the Theravada question. That was easier. Oh, let's see. Well, so for metta, you're asking if we're trying to develop loving kindness for all beings, then who is the I or the me that's trying to develop loving kindness? Is that what you're trying to ask? Yeah. Well, in all honesty, I would say that that could probably only be somewhat answered by somebody who has eradicated the I and the me. And that's certainly not me. You know, as we know, the stream mentors, you know, sotipannas, that's one of the things that when you become a stream mentor, that you give up personality view. Personally, I guess if I were to hazard some kind of an answer to that, I guess I would say that it really doesn't matter. And I'll say it in this way. If there is no I, there is no me, right? All things are conditioned. They are all based on something that happened before that. This occurs because the conditions were right for it to occur, right? So in the end, what you practicing metta is not really based on any kind of personality view at all. All it is training of the mind. Training of the mind to have thoughts that are not based in greed, hatred, and delusion. So, in the end, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter that I am thinking this, it doesn't matter that I am thinking this for this person. What matters is the actual thought itself. And that thought is a skillful and beneficial thought, which of course leads to positive karma, positive fruit in the future. Now that's probably about the only answer that I could give with my limited wisdom and insight. So it's not a well, and I kind of explained that in the metta meditation, metta bhavana, is to train our mind. You know, depending on the tradition, there's a little bit more emphasis on stuff like metta having an effect on other people. I go with the view, and Bhante Jia said this as well, which kind of confirms my view, is we can't know if it does affect other people. We don't know at all, but what we do know is it changes our own mind. And that's the most important thing. Yes, it's in that 1 second, in that one moment of consciousness, that one citta, you are performing a positive, beneficial, and skillful action. So, and that can only lead to your benefit in the future, and to the benefit of others. Kenshin, it's a good question. It's a good question. I think that the key thing that needs to be there in the relationships, whether it is a like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or marriage, or even just a friendship, or even just a coworker, the key thing is that needs to be there is understanding, empathy, and the feeling of live and let live. That I'm secure in my beliefs and what I do, and somebody else that does it, that's fine as well. You know, whatever they do is what they do. The problem is that that's a hard thing for many people to do. People are insecure in what they believe, or what they feel, or what they think is right, and they have a need to have others around them that feel and think and say the same things, so that they can what's the word I'm trying to think, reinforce their own self-esteem, their own belief. If you have these people that, you know, that are secure in that they are who they are, and they accept that, and then they accept others for who they are, then the problems diminish. So it's not necessarily what type of belief versus what type of belief. It's the mindset of the people that have the beliefs or the practices. That's the only way that, you know, you don't need to convert the other person. You don't need to prove anything to them, to debate, or as the Buddha called it, disputation, which he says to avoid at all costs because it's a waste of time. So, which basically rules out ever going on Facebook and website forums. But so there's no point in it trying to convert people or anything like that. And if you're secure in that way and others are secure in that way, then you can have that good relationship. If not, then it's not something that you necessarily can change. If the other person is insecure in that and has concerns, and maybe wants to convert you in some way or another so that they can feel more secure, then the issue is not really with what you believe, but rather with the mind of the other person. And I'm not necessarily sure that there is a way to change that person's mind. We come to realize and learn in Buddhism that all things flow in their own way, in their own time. And when you try to force things to change, it never works. So is that something that you're dealing with now, Kenshin? You have a significant other, friend, or somebody that has different beliefs? I will say that I experience that on a daily basis. I am the only Buddhist I know in my life. Well, I mean, not in my life, but I should say in my daily life. I can drive 5 hours to West Virginia and then I know a bunch of Buddhists. Or I could drive an hour to Princeton and I know a bunch of Buddhists. But in my daily life, yeah, well, everybody I work with is Catholic or Christian or something like that as well. Although, where are you from, Kenshin? I would have to say that it's, being from New Jersey, it's not very announced. People are not very, very, very religious here, like that they have to kind of put. Well, not talking religion is something that has been handed down for generations. When you have a family get together, there's two things you don't talk about: politics and religion. Amelia, we had a person. I haven't seen her in a while. I hope she is doing okay. Her name was Denise, and she would come here every time, every session, everything. She came here, and I got to know her quite well. And she got to, she was from Mexico, and Mexico, South America. I've been to South America and Mexico. I know that is very, very Catholic. I mean, it's like 99.9 something % Catholic. Although there are Buddhists in South America too. Bante G actually goes every year to Rio de Janeiro. There's, I think, a couple hundred Buddhists or something down there in that, Anywhere you go outside of the traditional Buddhist countries, Buddhists are about like 1% or less of the population. That's just the way it is. But, if you are a minority belief system or minority practice system and a majority, you're going to be kind of looked at as an outsider. So, it's hard for me because I think it's a little easier for me to be an outsider. I've always kind of felt like an outsider. Like, for instance, I'm in a fitness challenge now to try to get the most jump ropes, with other people. And, I do my normal walking meditation and stuff at work. So the fitness challenge this week is to get the most jump ropes. So of course, in the middle of my walking meditation, as I'm walking around the building, I stop and I start doing jump ropes in the rain. Now, of course, the people that I work with are kind of like, they look and they're like, yeah, that's Joe. Like, I mean, they're not even, nothing surprises them what I do anymore. They're like, yeah, that's it, that's Joe. It doesn't matter. But you know what though? When you have a confidence, even when you do crazy things like that. Or like when I was doing the last challenge 2 weeks ago, was burpees. So I would stop and I would do burpees. Even when you do wild and crazy things like that, if people see that you have a confidence in how you portray yourself, what you believe in, and that you're gonna do this, you're dedicated to do this no matter what people think, people actually respond to that. People look up to you for being that way. It's quite interesting. It's an interesting experience that I've come to start to analyze. But being an outsider is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, of course, if they start firebombing your house and stuff like that, then yeah, that's kind of if it becomes violent in any way or anything like that, then that can be a very, very tough thing. But I think for the most part, Buddhists kind of just, for the most part, are accepted by everybody. I mean, Buddhists just hang out. They're just there. I mean, they don't have necessarily any major beliefs that really go against anybody. So skulls, huh? Do you know that in Theravada monasteries, there's always now they can't do it in America, which is crappy, I think. But in Theravada monasteries in like Thailand and Sri Lanka, they actually have real human skeletons that hang in the meditation halls, or right before the meditation halls. And when I go to Bhavana Society, when you walk right before, there's a little, I guess you'd call it an atrium, a little area right before the meditation hall, and there hangs the Mr. Skeleton. Of course, it's one of them fake school plasticky skeletons. But welcome, Henry. But does everybody know why that there's hanging skeletons in monasteries? Welcome, Moon. Impermanence is one. Now, the Buddha taught his disciples to go to graveyards, to go to places where the dead were left to rot, and to observe the different stages of corpse decomposition, and to analyze that, and to think about that. And that is a way for us to realize that we are going to be that way sooner or later. We're going to be a corpse. Or it's also for us to understand that our body, even though this woman might be, oh, this is a beautiful woman and she smells nice and this and that, all she really is skin, bones, organs, veins, and then I think it goes into the 32 parts of the body. It goes into mucus, pus, what else? All these liquids and all these parts of the body. That's what it's power. Yeah. Well, see, that's to break through. Yeah, it's not exactly. That's to break through the veil of what we consider this body to be wonderful and beautiful, but it's really not. All it is, in essence, is it is a biological machine that we rent for a little bit. It's certainly not ours. If this body was ours, the Buddha taught, then we would be able to say to it, do not get sick, do not get old, do not die. But no matter what we do, we're going to get sick, we're going to get old, and we're going to die. It's simple as that. So this is why meditation in this way is very important, and it's taught what the Buddha taught, the um, five remembrances. Does everybody know what the five remembrances are? That's something I can teach right now. I'm sure, yeah, you've heard me talk about this before, Evil. The Buddha taught that there are these five things that one should remember often. I am of the nature to age or to grow old. I have not yet gone beyond growing old. I am of the nature to have illness. I have not yet gone beyond illness. I am of the nature to die. Have not yet gone beyond death. All things beloved and pleasing to me, I will be one day separated from. And the fifth one being that I am the arbitrator of my actions, born of my actions. All things that occur are from my actions, so that I am totally responsible for all of my actions. Those are the five remembrances. This is something that you should be remembering multiple times a day, not even just one time a day. These are the five things that are extremely important. Now, if you know the story of the Buddha, those first three things are what he first saw. When he started to understand, when he started to see life for what it really was. When, the story goes that his father kept him in these palaces and he never saw anybody old or sick or anything like that. And then when he wanted to go out into the world and see the people, and he saw the four significant visions. He saw an old person, a sick person, a dead person, and then he saw a monk. And after that, he wanted to be, to renounce his kingship and all of that, and go out and find a way so that all of us can go down that path to ending the cycle of rebirth. Because every time there is birth, there is also old age, sickness, and death. No birth, no old age, no sickness, no death. That's why Nibbana is called the deathless. Because once you have reached Nibbana or Nirvana, that is your final life. And when you pass away, you are not reborn. Hence why it's called the deathless. Because that is the true death. Buddhists do not believe in death. Buddhists believe in rebirth, or re-becoming. The only true death, as it were, is not being reborn again. That's why they call it parinibbana. When the Buddha passed away, they say it's not a death, it's a parinibbana. It's a specific term. Because you can't say that a person who's enlightened is dead. You can't say that they're alive. Or put in the suttas terms, you cannot say that the person is annihilated, or you cannot say that the person is in existence. So, when I go to the Bhavana Society and when I do my meditation, I take time out to go up to the skeleton. I actually walking meditate all out to the skeleton, and what I do is I will put a hand on my cheek, and I will put my hand on the skeleton's cheek, and I'll feel the bone, and I'll realize that bone is exactly what I'm looking at the skeleton. I was never taught this. This is something that in the meditation that I just decided to do, but it's something that I continue to do, and I like it because I think it fits with the Buddha's teaching. And so I'll do that. I'll feel the different parts of the body, the ribs, the chest, and I'll feel it on the skeleton, and that's me coming to realization or practicing awareness of that this body that I'm in right now is just made up of components. these components work together to allow me to move, to allow me to be sitting here, and allowing the different components in my throat to make these sound energies that come out as conceptual words that we understand. And when you do start to kind of have glimpses of seeing that, of what the body truly is, it's weird. It's something that your mind fights against, right? Because that's, it's like the battle, with if you ever seen Little Buddha, when Siddhartha's going in through his final enlightenment, and the other version of himself pops up. It's like basically you're looking into yourself and fighting your own ego. That only exists because of our own concepts. So it starts to get really, really interesting, I should say. And I can't really claim to be in any far way down that path either. Only glimpses at this point. True. So any other Buddhist questions? Anything related to Buddhism? I could start talking a little bit about Evil's first question about the Theravada Buddhism, or we can talk about something else. I don't believe so, Marine. You can always ask questions, Evil. Chang Yen sounds... It sounds like almost like the... Because I think it's a Chang Yen foundation that is also part of Bodhi Monastery too. The name Chang Yen sounds very familiar. No problem, Kenshin. Yeah, so yeah, I think the Chang Yen is affiliated with the Bodhi Monastery, because it's the master who died about 2-3 years ago. This was the master that for those of you who don't know, I had weight loss surgery 2 years ago, and at one point I was 373 pounds. Now I'm about 208, and the first time I went to the Bodhi Monastery and I met the master, he had to be about 90 at the time. He was this little Chinese, old Buddhist monk, and he didn't know a lot of English. And I don't know if he was just explaining if he was just saying a fact, or he thought he was complimenting me or whatever. But he comes up to me and he goes, "You are very fat." And all I could do is laugh. To this day, I love that he did that. It's just, it was just so truth. It was just so, So that, I believe that is Chang Yen. I'm 100% sure that that's who that is, Master Chang Yen. So in a roundabout way, yes, I am familiar with that. Amelia. Mental illness. That is an interesting question. What of the people who can't? See, it's about volition, right? Our actions that create karma in one way or another is about volition. If we're walking down the street and we don't even know it, but we kill creatures all the time, just walking down the street. Does that break our precept of not killing? Does that mean that we're creating bad karma? No. We have no idea we're even doing it. Now, if we go down the street and we see an anthill and we start doing the Mexican jumping dance all over the ants and kill a bunch of ants, then yeah, that's volitional. We decided we wanted to kill those ants. So now they're dead. So somebody with a severe mental illness, and this is, I do child protective services, and I deal with people with severe mental illness on a daily basis. Severe. You know, there's some people that have just a little bit of depression or a little bit of personality disorder, and then there's people that have real bipolar, real schizophrenia, and they basically cannot really function in real life without lots of medication and lots of therapy. And even the medication can make it even worse sometimes until they have that right amount of medication and the types of medication that makes it. I've seen it where people were able to get their lives back because they were able to have the right amount of medications and the therapies that worked for them. So mental illness is a tough thing. Well, Amelia, the only thing that I can say to that is that the first thing is we always remember that we never judge ourselves. So that if you have these periods of time where you know, and we never judge others. The three conceits are, we don't judge, the three conceits are, I am better, I am worse, or I am equal, right? So we're working towards not judging ourselves and not judging others. Now, of course it is. That's why we practice. That's why we do the meditation practice, to move towards the ability to do that. Now, the only way that you would even, and I can't even say that complete mindfulness would totally eradicate it, but the only way that you would be able to lessen that, perhaps, or to be more mindful just in general, is meditation practice. You know, I'm not going to say that meditation will cure your autism or anything like that. I don't think any monastic would ever say that either, or any, you know, any reputable, you know, Buddhist teacher. But I will say that real mindfulness, real practice can do wonders for people with all kinds of issues. So the only thing that you can do is, I have this thing. The only thing I can do is practice. That's all it is. You know, you have this attitude of, it's there, it's a condition, and you know what? I have a saying that Evil has heard me say it a million times, probably Marine too. That my quote, my saying is, if it exists, you can observe it. So as you practice, right? The more you practice, the more you'll be able to observe when this period of unmindfulness happens. The more you practice it, the more you'll be able to, the more you observe it, the more you see it, the more you know it, the more you understand it, the more you will be able to see it coming and possibly have an ounce of control with regards to it. Now, I would also hold that question for. I would like to see what a monastic would say to that question too, because that's an interesting question. And I do know now. You know, there's a part of Buddhism where there, you know, people. You know, you could say, oh, people were born with mental illness because they did something bad in the past, or, you know, silly things like that. That we have no idea if it are true or not. And sometimes people can really, like, if they have that belief, they can really judge you and be harsh to you with that regard. But that in the end, but in the end, what matters is what we do now. Always, the Buddha says this throughout the suttas. What happened in the past and what happens in the future don't matter, because they don't exist. The past doesn't exist anymore. The future doesn't exist. The past and the future are concepts of the mind. The only thing that truly exists is the present moment. So whether there even is rebirth, or whether you had previous lives, or whether, whatever, because of something in your previous life you have autism, or maybe it was just because of your environment, who the heck knows? And the point is, who the heck cares? It doesn't matter. It's already, what you have to do is deal with what you have right now in the present moment. And you want to be able to practice so that you can deal with that in a positive, skillful, beneficial way that allows you to increase and enhance your practice and your daily life, period. There's a saying that'll say, it goes, what people do to you is their karma. What you do in reaction to that is yours. And that goes for all things. When you create, karma is not something that comes back to bite you. And what I mean by that is, karma is just simply action. Karma is what you are doing right now in this moment. What people say is, like, something happens and they say, oh, that must have been my karma. That's actually wrong. There is karma, or kamma in the Pali, and then there is vipaka, which is fruit. So, which meaning the fruit of your actions. So whatever happens, whatever happened bad to you, that might be the fruit of your actions. It might be causes and conditions. Maybe a butterfly flooded its wings over in Japan, and that caused all these causes and conditions that dominoed for this to happen. We don't know. We can't know. It's an imponderable, right? You don't know. The knowledge of karma and how it works is an imponderable. We cannot know it. So I say we shouldn't even care about it. in a sort of true, sort of joking kind of way. Just know that what matters is what you do now. Not what you did in the past, not even what you're going to do in the future. Because, believe me, I was an idealist, and I had all these thoughts and dreams of what I was going to do in the future. And what I wasn't doing was creating that in the present. So I got to the point where it's like, hey, I thought I wanted to be this, I wanted to be this, I wanted to be that, I wanted this to happen. It didn't even happen. Now I know that if I want something to happen in the future, I have to create the causes and conditions that bring it about in the future. We create our future in the present. Simple as that. So the only thing you can do, Amelia, is practice. And as you practice, you'll be able to observe as it occurs, and you'll be able to come to a greater understanding of that. And when you have understanding and knowledge, you have power. Have remorse for future occurrences? One thing I will say is, and Ajahn Brahm was able to teach this to me, there is no guilt in Buddhism. No guilt, no remorse, none of that. Because what that is guilt and remorse are really your mind not being in the present moment. That's what guilt and remorse are. So you are now in this case, you're thinking, okay, I'll give an example. I'm an emotional eater. Now this is something I'm working towards, not working towards eradicating, but I'm an emotional eater. I have been my whole life. I'll say this. My example is, I'll say, last night I ate late. I didn't want to eat late, but I ate. And okay, then I'll think to myself, tonight I'm going to eat late. Now that could be in 3-4 hours, which I won't be up by then, but whatever, it could be whatever in the future. And I'm already starting to think, because I don't like that I do that, right? So I'm already starting to have remorse for it. I'm already starting to have guilt for it. But what am I doing? I am putting fears into my mind. Fear is adding negativity to thoughts of the future. So what that guilt and remorse is negativity. It's not skillful. It's unskillful. It's not beneficial. Now, should you feel bad or feel guilty or remorseful that you feel guilt or remorse? No. You just observe the feelings. You observe the thoughts. That's what it's all about. If it exists, you can observe it. And no matter what level, you can observe it. And what I mean by levels is, say that you have a thought. And the thought is, so you're trying to meditate, right? And all of a sudden you have a thought about having sex with whoever. Something, oh, I like that hot woman or that hot man. And then you think to yourself, damn it, I'm supposed to be meditating. How am I, being all nice and peaceful and pure? How am I having a thought about having sex? And what that is, right? You step one level further back, because you have this thought, and then you have these negative feelings regarding that thought. You're judgmental, right? And so you observe yourself judging the thought. And then you might think, well, dang it, I'm not supposed to be judging. And then you have remorse or feel guilty that you're judging. So that's another level back. And you observe that you have remorse and guilt about judging about your thought. And so no matter how many levels you go back, you can just continue to observe. You observe your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. No matter what exists, you can observe it. Give me a note card for tips on overcoming that. Practice. It's very simple. Emotional eating. That is something that is very, very, very hard. I mean, even though I had my surgery 2 years ago, I attend therapy, I am getting, I keep advancing in my Buddhist practice, it's still something that is there. And I think the reason being is because, number one, it's a habit that's basically almost as old as me. I'm 34 years old. So, I mean, it's a habit that's 30 years old. So it's something that a habit takes a long time to change. Now, the book that I'm reading, The Power of Habits, says that habits actually never die. They can only be replaced with habits that are better for you. But those old habits can come back. So this is something that I'll never be able to eradicate, that I had these habits. Now, of course, the habit is also related to those thoughts, feelings, emotions. So even if you can work on the thoughts, feelings, emotions, the habit is still very strong. So it's something that's very, very, very hard. Very hard. Extremely hard. And it's something that I think that as you probably advance in your practice, becomes easier and easier to understand and to not do. but I'm certainly not to that point yet. And I can see it little by little, but an old school Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, so I know all about that. Although, in all honesty, like I said, I'm 34. By the time I went to Catholic school, they really couldn't be using the rulers and doing all the stuff that somebody who's 50 or 60 years old got from the nuns. Hey, Evil, do you remember what your question was? All, what is it, 47? Almost 30 minutes ago? No, 20 minutes ago? I'm just scrolling up to see if, I didn't want to, have anybody ask a question and me not even at least try to acknowledge it. Oh, Evil, okay, type your question and then I have a question for you. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to type them out as well. We can discuss them. We don't have to, you don't have to wait at one time or another. Good night, Moon. Thank you for coming. Okay, now that you've asked your questions, I'll ask you a question. Did you watch that video with Ajahn Chah that I showed you? Because I watched it again and I was like, oh wow, yeah, now I remember why I favorited this video. It's so great. I mean, I think I want to use the video as like somebody who asks like what Buddhism is. I want to show them that video because in just those 10 minutes of teachings, I think Ajahn Chah pretty much sums it all up. He was an amazing, amazing person. Too bad he's been dead for 20 years, but still. Just from the books and from the little bit of video and teachings that I've seen of him, it's amazing. Okay, now I'll go to your question. I had an insight, I would say probably about 3-4 months ago. And it's an insight that came to my head, and the insight went like this: is our perception the sum total of contact? And I'll explain what I mean. Contact, is based off of the when we talk about the 12 links of dependent origination. Contact is the 6 sense organs, eye, ear, nose, tongue, mind, body, having contact with objects in the world. Eye have sights, ears have sounds, mind has thought objects. So is everything that we know, i.e. our perception, only based on what we see and know from our 6 sense organs? And I posed this to Venerable Yuta Dhammo, and I'm pretty sure I already knew the answer just from my knowledge of reading the suttas and stuff like that. And his answer was yes. We don't know anything beyond our senses, do we? So are we the sum total of everything that we know through our senses? And the answer is yes. There is nothing else beyond that, our contact. Well, everything that we know, if we do not have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, or a mind, what do we know? What is there? All of our thoughts, feelings, emotions, concepts, it all comes from the 6 sense organs. And of course that is dependent on having a body, right? So the answer is, the question is, we are not our parts, nor the sum total of our parts. We are the sum total of our parts, and that's all we are. Now the Buddha also talked about this, in that he said to find an I or a me in the parts of the body. He says, I observed the nails, the fingers, the hands, the arms, the elbows, the chest, the face. I observed all these, and I saw no person, I saw no identity in any of these parts. Now let me see if I can find that sutta for you, Evil. My knowledge of the suttas are expanding, however. A lot of it, there's so many and so much that what I don't often, which part of the which book is it from, and what's the name of it. That's something that I need to work on. No, your questions are never irritating. No questions are ever irritating. Questions create thought, create willingness to understand. That is the point. Well, I haven't found the actual sutta yet, but I will say that this is very, very good by Thanissaro on Anatta. That is the Anatta Sutta. It doesn't talk about the specifics of that, observing the body, but he pretty much encompasses that all into form. And it's a short one, so so it's easier to read. Now you should not feel bad or feel um, inadequate that you have these questions about the concept of not self, because it's only until you get to become that stream winner that you eradicate that. I mean, until that point, of course we're going to have these questions, because it's something that is counterintuitive, right? I mean, we are just born and raised that we have this self, this is me, I am, this. And you're raised in maybe a Catholic or a Christian, and it's like, I have a soul, it's me, this is this eternal thing. So, and then, if somebody's telling you that, no, there's no such thing, it's like, okay, so what's that all about? So it's natural to have these questions and concerns and confusions about these things. I still have them as well. Intellectually, I come to understand Anatta a little bit, but through actual wisdom and through true, remember, we're trying to have experiential wisdom. You can know all there is to know word wise and intellectual wise about the Four Noble Truths and Nibbana, but that doesn't mean that you've reached Nibbana. It means that you just get to know some of these things. That's it. You know it intellectually, but what we're trying to do is develop wisdom to see them how they truly are. So you shouldn't expect to know that there's no self or anything like that. In a lot of ways, what you can do is you can shelf it. All you need to know is that you practice, and eventually it'll come. You'll start to see things as they truly are. The veil will start to lift, and then suddenly the whole, that, maybe they do have something going on there. Maybe there is something more to that. But you can't go and read about it. You can't say, well, I want to know more, so I'm going to read about it in a book. It doesn't work that way. So A strange concept because it goes against the stream. Who wants to know that we're nothing? Who wouldn't rather think about that they have a soul and they're going to go to a heaven and have all kinds of fun and ever be happy and peaceful for eternity. Although in all honesty, I never liked that. I always thought it would be boring. I've always kind of liked rebirth better. Or reincarnation better. I always thought heaven would be boring as hell. Actually, hell might be less boring, but so I'm still trying to find that sutta. But I can't. One of these days I shall. So, we are past time. So I think we can end here. Hell would be hell, yeah. Yeah.